Northern Ireland invented identity politics, and
Yes.
like nearly 3,000 people, or 3,000 people were killed as a result.
Mm-hmm.
And the IRA, the sort of like moral paradigm that was set up by the IRA is minus the bombs. I was going to say bombs and the guns, but we've seen quite a few acts of political violence recently in the United States. That paradigm of I am so morally superior that I am entitled to murder you because I am so morally virtuous.
Hello.
Hello. Welcome to the Anne and Phelim Scoop.
My name is Anne McElhenney.
And I'm Phelim McAleer. And we're in Belfast today, Anne
Yes,
McElhenney.
that's why I'm wearing all these clothes.
Yes, right.
Our guest has got, I don't know, maybe had a stroke or whatever, but she's not wearing the amount of clothes that I'm wearing, so I don't know what that's about. Yeah, we're frozen.
Maybe she's acclimatised.
Yes.
So we're joined here by Jenny Holland. And I first met Jenny at a very swanky...
Oh.
Were you there?
Do I know
you
about this now? No,
I first met Jenny.
You went to a swanky place and you didn't bring
at
me.
a very swanky Upper West Side salon. Those are the people. Those are the people you're listening to now. We meet people.
This is who we socialise with.
That's who I am. That's right. I was there. Anne.
Is this the one that I think it was?
Yes, which we can't name.
Right, we won't name
swanky,
it. Okay. Very
swanky,
nice. Very nice.
Upper West Side salon. Actually, I must tell you a story about that.
Another time?
In the podcast.
Okay.
Swanky Upper West Side. This is Jenny Holland, who I met at I'll repeat that again, a swanky Upper West Side salon.
Okay.
Jenny she's Irish American. She's a journalist. She has in her past written for the New York Times, which we can talk about that. I think she described that. She says it's one of the last people to board the lifeboats on the Titanic. Is that what you said?
Oh, very good.
And now she writes a Substack where she basically writes about the Titanic sinking or not. I don't know. The Substack is called Saving Culture. We'll talk about that. She lives in Northern Ireland with her husband, teenage son, and 2 dogs. Yeah. So we're going to talk to her about everything. We have been at an employment tribunal today, a very interesting employment tribunal. We're going to talk to Jenny about the Irish election, the
New York mayor's election.
Because Jenny has lived for many years in New York and is Irish American and has some very interesting things to say. So welcome to the show, Jenny Holland.
Thank you. It's lovely to see you both again.
Thank you very much.
That was a swanky.
Yeah, that's a funny story, actually, because I had been only back in New York for a couple of days and I hadn't been to like a cocktail party in New York in over a decade. And I was feeling really out of practice and I was feeling very like a culty, like, oh, what am I doing here? I'm just a scrubber. All these billionaires or something like that. And it was very much like a celeb event. And so I'm sort of standing there feeling a bit sorry for myself, feeling like a waif. And I look over and I see this man with a big Irish hat on him. And so I walk over to you.
Define that. What does that mean?
It's the man sitting in front of me now, Your Honor. Anyway, instantly recognized you as a fellow Irish person. And I went over to you. And then I saw your name tag and I knew who you were from your work. So that's how we met. And then you were at the time... just about to open the October 7th play.
Correct.
Yes. So I think that's probably why you weren't there. And the following day, or maybe a few days later, I came to the show and we met up afterwards. And
I was actually at that same party, by the way. You were chatting to somebody else. I was schmoozing somebody else.
Phelim, you were by the food. You were by the buffet.
Yes. I think we took a decidecision to schmooze separately.
Yes, because we were trying to get a lot of people to come to the October 7th play. So we were dividing and conquering.
Yeah. Well, Phelim got me, so that wasn't a very high value add. But here we are now.
I'm not saying we're definitely not agreeing with that.
I subsequently went to that swanky Upper West Side salon, and I went with my young niece.
Correct.
It was a lovely girl. She would win the lovely girl competition.
She would win every lovely girl competition.
She's a lovely girl.
Yes.
And the woman who was at the door, and she looked at my niece and she says, "Okay, 2 things. When this guy," and she named him, "and this guy," and she said in quite a loud New York voice, comes up, walk away. They're both sleazeballs and they target the young pretty girls at these events."
Wow. Oh, yeah.
And I'm going, okay, let's go.
Oh, my goodness.
We literally walk in, and next thing I'm standing there, ding, number one comes over, and I'm going, and we kind of sidle away, and then we're sitting listening to something, and I didn't notice this, but of course my niece did. We after the first event or whatever, we get up and off our seats and walk downstairs, and she says number 2 spotted her and followed her downstairs.
This woman who was there obviously knew what she was about.
That's mad.
That is mad, but it's a great event. It is a great event.
Yeah, he was very kind to us to include us and featured us actually.
Yes,
yeah.
It was great, and it was great to meet you there, Jenny.
Yeah. New York is where everything happens. Let's face it.
Yes, my husband would, in another life, would like to live in New York, but maybe not with
Maybe
the
not
new.
now.
Maybe not now.
now.
Maybe not right
I
now.
always end up living in places that 10 years too late.
Yes.
Per film.
You know?
I think I was born 10 years too late,
Yes.
actually. It's been the trajectory of my
Like I'm in
certainly
LA
professional
now.
life.
I'm in LA now, and it's like I should have been there.
Yeah, everything's moved out of LA,
Yes.
so it's not the great place it used to be.
Yeah.
Or if it ever was.
Yeah, it's a time of great flux for creative industries and all sort of white collar jobs in general.
Yeah, it's incredible, actually. Everyone we know in Los Angeles who's in the business, and, it's like there's nothing. There is nothing going on there. So many people have said, if you've anything at all, like editors, it's very worrisome.
Yeah, people who we haven't spoken to in 10 years are phoning us back saying, hey, have you got anything going?
Let's meet and they kind of do this presentation, and it's actually quite sad, actually.
Yeah.
It's really sad because they're used to having very nice salaries and things have just moved on.
Yeah.
But anyway, Phelan, why are we in Belfast?
Yeah.
Well, for many reasons, but the main reason is we were at Morrison versus the Belfast Film Festival Employment Tribunal.
Yes.
So the Employment Tribunal, I mean, for those who aren't familiar with employment tribunals, it's where if you are discriminated at work or victimized at work or bullied at work, and I'd be an employment tribunal skeptic quite often. I think, being bullied at work now has been told you're crap when you're crap.
But you actually are crap.
Yes, yes. But so this case is not like this. This is a woman called Sarah Morrison, who in 2023 spoke at it was an open mic at a trans.
It was Kelly J. Keene's Let Women Speak rally.
Exactly.
I was also there.
Oh, very good. Did you speak?
I did.
Oh, very good. Oh, listen.
And
I didn't have a job to lose. I'm self-employed, so there you go.
Keep talking. You could be a witness.
That's right. But this Sarah Morrison, though, was at the time working for the Belfast Film Festival.
And Jenny can correct me if I'm wrong. The Belfast Film Festival isn't quite the Belfast Film Festival. It's more like the West Belfast Film Festival. It came out of that, really. This is context for people. So
what does that mean to people who don't know?
It would have a very Republican background. It would have a politically radical, as in,
progressive,
as
they call it.
Lefty,
it's not, because if you had the Belfast Film Festival, you would have loyalist areas and more British and more conservative, perhaps. But anyway, that's kind of a side point. But yeah, so Sarah Morrison went there and spoke for, I think, a whole 4 minutes. And then her claim is that, allegedly, she was attacked and abused to no end online. And initially, her boss was supportive, but eventually, allegedly, all these organizations, complained, and abuse got so bad that they sent her home, actually, and announced they were launching an investigation into her. And I mean, at that stage, she resigned, and she's alleging constructive dismissal, which means that your company was so bad to you that basically they
made it impossible for her to work there,
but made it so impossible for you to work there. They didn't fire you, but you knew the writing was on the wall and had to resign.
Right.
So the case opened today, and
eventually,
it's the first context. It's the first Northern Ireland. Is that right? Trans case. Trans legal case.
Despite that,
can I just say this has been a big case. This has been a big issue in places like Scotland, places like England. There was the LGB Alliance versus Mermaids, which we did the verbatim play on, Trans on Trial, which you can see at transontrial.com. And then there was the Sandy Peggy case, which we also have covered as well, Sandy Peggy versus NHS 5. And then there's a Darlington nurses case, which is currently underway as well. So, yes, so this is the first Northern Ireland one. And
despite that fact that it's the first and is very, very interesting for all kinds of reasons, it hasn't made the press get extremely excited. We arrived an hour early, and it reminded me, by the way, this is one thought I wanted to share, was it reminded me about possibly why a lot of journalists are alcoholics. Because the hanging around is enough to drive you to drink, basically.
Yes.
We arrived early. We were very cautious because we were really convinced that there'd be a massive mob of journalists trying to get in. Yes. That did not turn out to be the case. So we were actually there an hour before the thing started. It was meant to start at 2:00. So 2:00 came, 2:30 came. Eventually it started at what time?
No, well, we went in at 2:30, and then they come in and says, well, okay, we're having a private application. You all have to leave.
Right.
I believe it started at... We were allowed back in at 3:15, but I don't think it actually started till 3:45. No, it started at 3:30 or something like that. Yeah. And it was supposed to end at 4.
And then they pushed it for a quarter of an hour. They managed because I think they were embarrassed by how little they got done today.
I think we got a maximum half hour of testimony from Sarah Morrison.
Right.
And background here. So Sarah Morrison was the inclusion officer. I like that. She was the inclusion.
Yeah. And she was their only staff member.
So she was their only staff member.
Yeah.
But
wow.
on their board, right? And so
That's a very good point.
People in America might be shocked by this, but on the board of the Belfast Film Festival is Lawrence McKeown, who I think has served, is it
16? I think 16 years, was it? Or
16
14?
years in prison, or 14, for attempted murder and other firearms and bombing offences. He did 70 days on a hunger strike. He was the 11th hunger striker. He was next to die after the 10 hunger strikers. The IRA in their campaign of violence killed about over 2,000 people. He claimed in a Irish Times interview in 2017 there was a moral war, and I'm not going to get into whether it was a moral war or not, but the argument in the court today was, such as it was, you are the inclusion officer. You're supposed to work with partner organizations, and partner organizations were really upset that you gave this 4-minute speech about men dressed up as women not being in women's spaces. So therefore, you had failed at your job, and they were right to give you a hard time. They had a board member who wanted to blow people up for a living.
Yeah.
You know, and thinks it's a moral war, right? Would there not be some partner organizations, say like police organizations, or just ordinary real people who might think, you know, that's not for me. I don't want to spend the time with that.
No, but that's the heart of this on even a macro scale. On the one hand, in Belfast, in Northern Ireland generally, in my experience, the creative industries are captured by woke identity politics, assumptions, meaning they assume that everyone just agrees with them.
Yes.
And anyone who's even vaguely associated with a conservative, as in Tory or unionist, or certainly MAGA. Oh my God! I mean, it's absolutely unthinkable.
Yeah,
like these people don't even exist. Like it's a blind spot actually, and all of these organizations are taxpayer funded to one degree or another. Mm-hmm. And yet they have absolutely they feel under no obligation to be politically representative or politically diverse. But even bigger than that, like Northern Ireland invented identity politics, and like nearly 3,000 people were killed as a result. Mm-hmm. And the IRA, the sort of like moral paradigm that was set up by the IRA minus the bombs. I was going to say bombs and the guns, but you know, we've seen quite a few acts of political violence recently in the United States, that paradigm of I am so morally superior that I am entitled to murder you because I'm so morally virtuous. Yeah. You know, I grew up surrounded by sort of Troubles lore. My father was a journalist who wrote multiple books about it, and he worked at the Irish Echo for decades and covered Irish America, and he was from Belfast. And so I grew up around Irish nationalists mostly because he was from the Falls. And as a young person, I had a sort of default nationalist bent. And now, of course, with middle age, and you sort of look back and you think, well, wait, how can you claim that you were a victim of British tyranny when you're sending bombers to blow up people, you know, so whether they're soldiers or not, and conducting a campaign of terror yourself? You know, it's FAFO, as they say now in the United States. Like, I don't understand. Like, I'm sorry. But that kind of mentality has just seamlessly segued into woke politics generally.
In what way? I mean, how is woke politics different in Northern Ireland than?
I don't think it is actually.
No,
I think
what you're describing sounds like, you know, what we find everywhere.
I suppose you're right. Yes.
The one thing that Northern Ireland has going for it is that it's still small and conservative with a small c, culturally speaking. People just sort of tend to just want to get on with their lives, and they're not as showy as Americans are with their virtue signaling. There'd still be a bit of a buttress against that, just because it's, you know, it's don't have notions, that sort of thing. Yes.
Well, I mean, it came out in the courtroom today. Now, I didn't get a note of all. I mean, of course, all these organizations, you know, this something for the art. I mean, it was all these.
There was a whole list. There was a whole set of acronyms of people who had of these different organizations, and then they reading out the tweets of what these people said that they objected to, and of course, actually, you had the fact that basically it turns out it's probably the same person has all the same accounts.
They're all government funded too. That was another thing. Was
Yes.
every one of them is government funded.
Everything is government funded here.
Yes,
there's no economy.
I think
here.
that's no economy here.
Yeah.
Exactly. I think it has the largest bureaucracy in the world after the Chinese army or something.
We were in a room. We were in a house the other day, and somebody said, "Do you know how many people work for the state here in Northern Ireland?" And I think it's 8 out of 10. But I think that is the biggest. Northern Ireland, if Northern Ireland was a country, it would be the biggest state employer on the planet. Like there's no China doesn't do that.
No,
Russia
I think it's
doesn't
actually
do that.
I think it's the biggest.
Yeah,
no, there's something.
So 8 and 10, and think about your own families. Who in your families all work for the government?
But they had this situation today where they had these organisations who had randomly said, basically randomers criticising this woman, and and it's like, so what? So what? Yeah. You're allowed to criticise people. They're allowed to criticise, but they're basically saying, no, by doing that, you brought the Belfast Film Festival into a terrible situation where all these organisations are feeling alienated and unhappy. And they're really unhappy now. And because they're unhappy now, there's a chance that funding would be affected. And it's like, sorry, I think they call that a heckler's veto.
But also, he did say, you said there are elected representatives up on the bridge because there was a counter demonstration.
That's right.
Yeah. And
who? They said, who was there?
No, they said it was Mickey Murray. I couldn't really pick up the name. And she goes, no, it wasn't him. I was talking about the Green Party representative. And their point was, well, Belfast Film Festival is almost entirely dependent on state funding from the council and from Stormont, and therefore alienating these political representatives, that's a real danger to the Belfast Film Festival. And nobody thought to think, well, that's their problem actually. That why is an arts organisation so wholly dependent on state funding?
Well, because it's easy. Because it's easy. And as somebody who runs a 501c3 in the United States and is raising money, it's nice. If you could get a nice big check from the government every year, then you wouldn't have to go. And by the way, you wouldn't have to go and be pleasing people all over the place to try to get them to give money to your festival. So it's actually, they're all, and of course they've one employee because they don't have to worry about the money because the money just rolls in.
Yeah, they've no development officer. There's nobody out raising money.
Yeah, I mean, so number one, you don't have to make anything of any commercial value,
right?
Yes,
at all.
Yes,
no,
which is handy, especially if you're an overeducated kind of like navel gazing experimental type. Which I don't know if they are or not. I've never. Yes. I've probably been to the Belfast Film Festival maybe in the 90s, and not since. But yeah, no, it is essentially a circle jerk.
Yeah.
Like it is in the rest of the UK, I think, and probably in the Republic of Ireland as well, in that you have a kind of a blob of similarly situated people in the civil service, in the media, and in the arts. They all know each other. They've all gone to the same schools, and they all believe the same thing. So they all want to produce work for each other,
and
which gets more and more insane. Actually, and I think Scotland has been the absolute outlier on this in terms of the crazy and really kind of frankly disturbing and gross work funded again by the British taxpayer. That's just the way it is here. And actually, I mean, it's kind of given me a bit of a libertarian bent because I'm like, you know what? Screw all of you. You're not entitled to your prestige job in the film business. Like you're just not entitled to that.
No.
If no one wants to pay for what you're making, then you got to stop making it or live in penury and just accept that.
And by the way, that brings up like we recently had the misfortune, by the way, of seeing a movie that will be, I would imagine, at the Belfast Film Festival sometime soon. And it was it was truly shocking. It has zero commercial. There's zero.
I feel like I've seen a lot of those. Which one are you talking about?
I'm talking about the one that we saw at an arts festival recently in Donegal film, where there were scenes. Multiple scenes of a child drinking alcohol, which wasn't criticised.
Right.
It was like, and I'm not talking about a child. I'm not talking about a teenager. I'm talking about a prepubescent boy, a little boy. And it was like
neck in a bottle
a few times. I'm thinking, okay. And then the language, by the way, was just, I couldn't believe it. Like, and I have fairly bad language myself.
In their defence, they did have an immigrant who
did.
was a saint, and
They
did
mentioned
have a couple
trans.
of-
They mentioned trans.
They had a trans thing, and they had a couple of lesbians. Now,
They
come
did.
on,
In
now.
almost every scene, there was a kind of thing where they'd squeezed in these two lesbians that you would see in the back of almost every scene. It was like, okay, there they are again.
And funny, they had one good actor, but she wasn't a lesbian. Oh, was she a lesbian? Oh, she was kind of lesbianish. But like the one good
Lesbian
actor
light.
that we've seen in another show, we know she's a good actor, but she didn't fit, and then she didn't tick all the boxes, as they
So
say.
anyway, the tribunal started today. I mean, it got. I thought it got off to a fairly rousing start. Actually, there was a very robust questioning of the witness.
Yes, I felt, but we disagreed about this. I felt that she was too, how can I use the word?
Combative.
Towards the questioner.
I think she should be combative. I think it's a horrific situation. I think it's ridiculous. It's more not horrific. It's ridiculous. The situation is ridiculous.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
This is ludicrous. This is a grown-up woman. She went to, and her position basically is like, and this is where it really gets ludicrous and fun. Actually, is she thinks a woman is a woman.
Yeah,
and she thinks that there should be safe spaces for women,
Yes.
like changing rooms and toilets.
and women's shelters, domestic
Right.
abuse
Well, one of
shelters
the
in
persons-
particular.
and that's it. Like that's the whole thing.
One of the person who had all the fake accounts was the CEO of the Domestic Abuse Centre. Not the fake, but several tweets written about her and tagging Belfast Film Festival were from the CEO of a Domestic Abuse Centre, right? And so, but this.
And you'd expect that, yeah. So the obvious thing is that you'd expect somebody who's running a refuge for women,
Not to want
not
men
to
in it.
want, But this is the world we're in, though. This is
Yeah.
the trans world we're in, where the crazy stuff, and that's what this tribunal we're hoping is going to expose. Because I think once you put people on the spot to say, what was it now that you just said?
Yeah.
It's ludicrous. It's beyond ludicrus.
Yeah.
And a lot of times they get to avoid having to answer any questions, but they're not going to get to avoid
I
questions
think
now.
one of the issues, one of the problems, I think nobody in the UK is going to do this to anybody else again, because they've all seen how Sandy Peggy has exposed it. They've seen how trans versus maybe they've seen Darlington
Maya
nurses.
Forrester.
They've all been smacked around the head, and surely words got out. Don't go there, right?
I don't know. I mean, look, full disclosure, I'm friends with Sarah, but I only became friends with her after the Let Women Speak event, at which I also spoke, and we got to know each other through, I think, the Free Speech Union.
Mm-hmm.
And we're the same age. We went to secondary schools that were next to each other. We hung out in the same bars when we were underage. So we've probably crossed
This is a very
paths.
Irish experience, by the way, just so you know. Yes.
And we were both, she was in the arts world, and she worked for the Green Party.
Yeah.
She worked for women's shelters. Impeccable lefty credentials, very artsy.
I was going to say, right?
Artsy woman,
Yes,
right?
yes.
And she knows a lot about film, and she is just, and that's a very familiar demographic to me. Like I joke around, like I know sculptors and modern dancers and illustrators. These
Yes.
are the people I kind of grew up with because I went to university and studied arts and stuff like that. But her remarks weren't like, from what I recall, they were very much like, why are there elected representatives or taxpayer funded organizations standing against us here, trying to shout us down?
Yes.
All I'm saying here is, as a citizen, as just a regular person, is that men shouldn't be allowed into women's domestic abuse shelters. And why are these public facing organizations trying to stop us? And that day,
Because there was a counter protest.
There was a counter-protest.
Specifically talking about the counter
yeah,
protest.
yes. And there was a group of people, and the police did a very good job, actually. But the atmosphere was tense, and there was a lot of men on our side who'd obviously come down with their women. I remember there was one guy with a massive dog on a chain and everything. I was like, oh my God, what are we getting into? But, there was, because I think it was not long after Kelly J. Keane got hit with the can of soup in New Zealand. It was around that time. Anyway, but the counter protesters, I mean, talk about doolally. Like, they were standing there with their trans flags with Vladimir Lenin on it.
Yeah, I've seen
like,
this.
he would have had you all lined up against a wall and shot.
Yes, first.
You are class enemies.
Yes.
You are deviants. Like, you would not, I mean, by his standards, okay?
Yeah.
You would not have lived through more than a week of the Russian Revolution.
Yeah.
And yet we have an entire system of very bourgeois and probably fairly conventional, or would have been conventional, civil servants, and they would have been conventional in a different era, just enabling these people endlessly, in part because probably, oh, it's my niece or my daughter or my daughter's friends or my son's friends.
Yes.
And partly because look what happens when you step out, even tiny outside the lines, you lose your job. Everyone hates you. You become a local hate figure.
Unbelievable.
And nobody wants that. It's very painful.
Yes.
I mean, Sarah has spoken at length about how distressing it was for her. She lost most of her friends.
Her best friend, or one of her best friends, someone she'd been on holidays with, was one of the people who tweeted.
Well, that whole thing was really extraordinary because she said that guy, this friend that she had, and I think she didn't name him, or maybe she did name him, but basically she said they've been on holidays together, but they have had lengthy, very rational, very sober conversations about the very issues that she was talking about at the march, and then suddenly, you have this thing where he's like, he blocked her and he's like completely gaslit her.
And he also tweeted and CC'd the Belfast Film Festival.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I'm just sitting there. I mean, I there's two big things here. It's like, so a lot of them said she's transphobic. Well, that's an opinion, right? It's not a fact, right? So if someone writes to my organization that I work for and says he's a racist, well, that's their opinion of what I'm saying. It's not. There's no such thing. Racism is not a fact.
Just because somebody said it, it
isn't a fact. So are we to take if the head of some organization mischaracterizes what I say? Am I supposed to apologize?
Yes.
And the second,
apparently,
yeah. And the second thing is, like, look at your board.
Yeah. There's an actual terrorist on your board.
Yeah.
Am I allowed to say that?
I think you are. I think you are.
He's an unrepentant former terrorist. I assume he's not a terrorist anymore, right? Because
he served actual time in prison
as a terrorist.
We're on to say it was 14 or 16 years, right?
Yeah.
Attempted murder. He tried to shoot a police officer and failed. But he was. I mean, he was as it said in the Irish Times article I read, he built up quite a career at that stage in the IRA. Like, it wasn't his first outing. So, and he has started a fashion line. Did you see that? He started a fashion line.
Wow,
nice.
With made out of former blanket style material from the blanket protests in
Delightful.
He was, so.
I hope it's not from the dirty protest.
Exactly.
Yeah, please.
This is not someone who's with the benefit of hindsight and maturity has decided that perhaps that was a wasted youth. Yeah. So, and I was going to say.
Well, he's actually been. I mean, by the way, sorry, he's actually been rewarded. He's got that very nice job. He's sitting there. I don't know if it's a paid position to be on that board.
I don't know.
But it's all very respectable. Life goes on. Obviously,
you get invited to lovely parties. I'm sure.
Yeah,
get to meet all the stars.
Lots of
all
fun
that.
things.
But listen, he's entitled to his opinion. Blah blah blah. But
he's the one who'll be making. He's the one who's going to be making a decision.
He's deciding whether to suspend or to okay the suspension of someone who's speaking at a public rally whose words are hurty.
Yes.
He fired bullets that are hurty.
That's
he
right.
made bombs that are a lot more hurty.
Yes.
But her words are just so hurty that she has to just be harassed.
Well, have you noticed how IRA nonsense is like so fashionable at the moment?
Your film's always talking about that.
All the things, like, I find maybe that is probably the most irritating to me. I mean, like, woke just keeps on delivering these like pitiable and pathetic and enraging sort of psyops that we have to all then be like, and out of them all, even maybe more than the trans, the youthful love affair, the hipster love affair with everything IRA related.
Funny,
really gets under my
we
skin.
can't, being in the States, we miss that, right? We don't get that youthful love of the IRA, but it's so funny, right? I mean, it's so funny because I remember growing up during this, right? And if you were pro IRA or pro nationalist here, the hipsters hated you.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
The hipsters,
how times have changed.
You were like this troglodyte.
Yes.
You were this nationalist, and they were so cool, and they were above it all. And I don't know. I think I'm more European than Irish. This kind of shit.
Right. That's right. And here you go. Those hipsters from back in the 70s and 80s are now running organizations like the Belfast Film Festival or many others. I don't know if they're or not specifically that one.
Yeah.
And they probably feel a bit bad about their former, attitude.
I think
and they want to seem cool to their own kids.
Yes.
So they're rewriting history.
That's right.
And they're all full Palestine.
And it's okay to do that
funny.
now because there is no conflict right now.
Zero.
Right?
I think that is why that's one of the reasons, and I think I've said this before, why Ireland is so pro-Palestine is because a lot of these free staters, as we used to call them,
yes,
they bleeping hated our guts.
That's right.
Because we were.
I remember that even until the 90s, it was like that.
And so now, and they wanted nothing to do with us. In fact, we were something on their shoe. And now, as you say, they feel guilty about that. They felt, I didn't do my bit back then. And now, so they overcompensate by supporting a terrorist war. They didn't want to support a terrorist war that was 50 miles up the road, but they'll support one that's, I don't know, where Israel is, 2,000 miles away or whatever, 1,000 miles away. No, there's a lot of that. I have to wonder, though, for someone like Lawrence McKeown, who, like, whatever you say about him, like, spent 14 years in prison, went on a hunger strike for 70 days, lived, didn't wear a uniform, didn't wash for 3 years, like, and had a beard and all. And
it's commitment.
It is commitment. No, but you have to be impressed with the sincerity.
How does he feel about these Johnny come latelys, these Saoirse come latelys, right? or the people who name their children Saoirse now, right? Who wouldn't have named who were named the child Vicky back then, but now they're all called Saoirse.
Yeah.
You know, and these Saoirse come latelys who are so and it's like, you hated my guts back then, but maybe we've all agreed to forget about it and pretend that.
Well, because now we can all bask in the glory of kneecap, right? Yes. And be cool again. And you know, there's nothing so seductive to like a 50, 60 something, you know, aging revolutionary as being hip and cool and sexy again.
Yes.
You know, I mean, that's a hell of a drug.
You couldn't buy that.
You couldn't buy that.
Well, we're gonna be watching this case, and I mean, it'll be interesting to see what happens in the next days. Yes. But there's some other issues that we want to talk about. I think one of the biggest ones actually is a huge news story that's broken here, which I of course is very big in the States too, is what's happened with the BBC having to acknowledge this extraordinary thing that Panorama, which was this kind of flagship documentary program, which, you know, growing up, it was the thing, you know, Panorama.
It was like 60 Minutes in the US, right?
You know, very, very lauded and won all kinds of awards and all of that. They did the most extraordinary thing. Absolutely extraordinary. And we've made documentaries. We know exactly how this whole thing works with editing and all of that, and how you have to be very, you know, you have to be honest. You can't be dishonest about a thing. And this is a very clear
just
thing.
Just to be clear, you can splice things together, but they can't distort the meaning of.
Right.
So what they did, for anyone who hasn't heard the story, what they did was extraordinary. They spliced together moments from Trump's speech on January 6th to make it look that he basically said, let's go and fight. Completely incorrect, by the way. Completely incorrect. And in fact, what they did was they moved stuff at the end of his speech to the top of his speech, and where he said the fight thing or whatever, or the fight thing that he said, it was after.
Yeah, so he said something at the beginning of his speech. 1 hour later, he said something else. They melded. Actually, let's play what they broadcast now. Let's play that.
We're going to walk down to the Capitol, and I'll be there with you, and we fight. We fight like hell. And if you don't fight like hell, you're not going to have a country anymore.
And now let's play what he actually said.
We're going to walk down to the Capitol, and we're going to cheer on our brave senators and congressmen and women.
Right. So you can hear there that what he actually said was go to the Congress and support our senators, whereas they had go to the Congress and fight and destroy.
Fight like hell or something.
Fight like hell.
So.
But this isn't the only thing. So basically, there's obviously the Trump thing, which is, I mean, it's just unconscionable. I just think the whole place should shut down almost immediately. But however bad that is, and it's like as bad as you can imagine, you then add to that they've had to, I think it's correct, their stories 250 times in relation to Gaza. And then we have this disciplinary action that they've just that they did against one of their newscasters, who basically was reading the news, and the script said pregnant people, and she went women, you know, and her reaction, it looks like she maybe hadn't read it through earlier, and then she got made, and she just did quite an eye roll, which everyone watching that newscast would have done exactly the same thing. And I feel like there's something else. On climate change, the same thing, that they've gone into this kind of very ideological way of reporting news.
And trans. Today, as we're recording this, the Director General has resigned and the head of news resigned. I don't know why they didn't resign last week when this first came out, because or immediately apologise. They might have got away with it. But so Jenny, tell us what the hell's going on here.
This is such a great story. I mean, I don't have any inside information on the BBC, but I agree with you. I mean, I have become so, I guess, radicalized by the appalling behavior of every single institution in which I used to have a huge amount of faith.
Yes.
Every single one.
Yes.
And I don't think any of them are salvageable, and I haven't thought so since probably around 2020 and 2021. I was watching the events unfold live from my house here in Northern Ireland at the time, because I had been following very closely, post-COVID. And I had voted. I voted for Hillary Clinton in 2016.
Get out.
Yeah, I did. And and
you even got Hillary's cough, I noticed.
And it wasn't until 2020, just before lockdown, but then very much in lockdown, that suddenly I was made aware through discovering other sources of information that the Bidens were, X, Y, and Z in the Democratic establishment, and basically all the lies. I was already anti-woke though, so that was an easy bridge to cross. Anyway, on January 6th, 2021, I was in my kitchen and I was watching what was going on, and I heard the Trump speech, and and then, when these crazy events started happening inside the Capitol, I was watching it and I was like, this just looks like an absolute stitch up. Everyone looks like they're acting. And of course that made me, for a couple of years, like an insane conspiracy theorist, right? But I didn't really say it publicly at the time, I don't think. But look at what's happened since. Look at all of the information that has come out. It was 100% a media operation from day one, and all of the media basically went along with it. So the thing they said was that they stitched together the 54 minutes apart.
Yeah.
And he says, he said, we'll have to go to the Capitol and support our senators and our brave congressmen and women. And then later on, he's talking about, sort of, should it not come to pass that he gets the presidency, we'll continue to fight like hell, meaning MAGA movement will endure.
Yeah.
That's what he meant. It was very obvious.
Yeah.
And I put them together, and then I just, how you can put together a story. Yeah. Oh, well, look, he said fight like hell. And then
you see them all
and
walking.
then they're like, and the shaman, the weird elk guy or whatever, and walking away with Nancy Pelosi's lecture, whatever nonsense that they put together. And then the weird videos that AOC was making, claiming to be in mortal danger. And I'm just like, you're not that good an actress. Like, I'm watching with my eyeballs as just a regular person. And just like none of this. And also having worked in the media in the 90s and the early 2000s before the internet, when things were somewhat normal, things were kind of reality based and not captured. Like nothing like this, I mean, this isn't how things used to work. It all felt like very fake to me.
Yeah.
But then, in 2022, Matthew Rosenberg, who's a very senior reporter at the New York Times, was caught by James O'Keefe's operation on a date saying that, what did he say? Oh, yeah, that basically the January 6th was basically like an overblown exaggeration. The coverage.
Yeah. No,
of
it was
the
basically
riot.
them taking over some people taking over the dean's office.
No, I mean, but when you look at his copy, right? Because I wrote about it for Spiked, and I went and I read the day one copy, so the day of the riot, and it was like talking about the hordes, and the missiles flying overhead, just absolutely overwritten hysteria. And then he is caught on camera talking to a pretty girl, saying, "Oh yeah, no," I mean, it was full of federal agents, by the way.
Yeah.
And everyone was being a weakling.
Yes.
Everyone was the lefties, the lefties have taken over the newsroom, and the older people are reasonable. So this has been an obvious kind of media operation, basically since the day and hour itself.
But then in the run up to the 2024 election, Panorama decided to revisit this, and how did they? I mean, they almost got as used to say in Scooby Doo, and they almost got away with it. If it wasn't for those pesky kids.
But they did get away with it. In a way, they did get away with it because the program came out and did what it was meant to do. Which, I mean, it's election interference. It's what it was. Yeah. That's exactly what they did. I mean, it's extraordinary, and they kind of did get away with it. I mean, this is now 2025 before we're kind of hearing this.
But to me, it's and you see all these BBC reporters now on Twitter and that defending it, by the way, or saying there was no harm done, and it's like
there's no bias at the BBC.
No, no,
but
no.
also, look-
and it was a
look-
mistake. No, it's not a mistake.
No,
no,
no.
that's exactly what it isn't. Because because when you're editing a documentary, it's awful. It's the really long, hard task, and it's actually it's almost impossible to make a mistake actually because it's right because
it's
you're
very
because,
tempting to make that mistake.
Oh, no, you could obviously-
listen,
yes.
we've all been there, and it's like,
oh, if you could just move that there and make
or
it,
if I
then
cut,
it'll make it look
if
it'll
I
make her
cut
look
them
really
off
bad.
there, right? And
Yeah.
it's like, but you just can't do it, right?
But there's a history of this kind of thing. This is what Katie Couric got caught doing,
Yes.
where she had invited these guys to speak about gun crime, and these guys believed in in people having the right to bear arms, and basically she asks a question,
A gotcha question.
And then they have this footage of the guys going
Complete silence.
complete silence. It never happened. Never happened.
Yeah.
And I just think people, I remember thinking this with some experiences we had of being interviewed where I realised going forward, you have to tape it.
Yeah.
If,
Because they
with these
released, the gun people released the tape. So she asked this gotcha question, and the picture of them just going.
But the truth was, they had immediately
They
answered.
just immediately answered, and what she was using was the B-roll that they'd recorded at the end.
Right.
So, I mean, so we can all, and we just want to say to people here around this table, there's probably, I don't know, 50 years of experienced journalists. Don't believe anyone who says this is normal, this is acceptable, or this is not harmful, or this is that no animals were harmed in the making of that splice. This is so bad.
It's Stalinist.
It's
right.
Yeah.
It's right up there with Stalin.
it's
I mean,
Stalin.
The defense of the journalists who are trying to defend the BBC are like the people who were sent to the wall shouting "Long live Stalin."
Yeah.
They. I mean, there is no bridging this ideological divide.
No.
It's a true societal sickness.
No.
I don't know how it's going to be unraveled unless. I mean, I think the market in some ways is doing a little bit of its thing because the media spin doesn't work as powerfully as it did.
Correct.
Otherwise, Trump would not be in office right now.
And this story is getting an awful lot of airtime on X, etc. I mean, on social media, this story is traveling a lot.
So, talking of just segue.
See, this is going to be the most awkward segue.
Talking of
bridging something from one place.
Talking of bridges, New York has a lot of bridges.
Oh yeah.
And Mamdani has a few to sell us all.
Yes. So you've lived in New York more than most of us, much to my chagrin.
Yes, I lived in New York for many years. As a kid, I was there in the 80s when I was a little kid. I went to elementary school, public school in Brooklyn. It was a total dump. It was not hipsterified. And then I moved back in my early 20s and lived there till my early 30s. And yeah, I mean, on the one hand, I think it's kind of a disaster. It is a disaster for New York that they elected this, as the tablet called him, a hipster hologram, which is the best description. I can't make a better one myself because there's something so fake and honestly, automated.
Oh yeah, no, there's
him.
something, and that smile and this inappropriate smiling thing. Funny, Kamala has it. It must be a thing. She does that. She'll smile at the most inappropriate. I heard a very good analysis from Peter Thiel, which I thought was really good about what has happened there. It made the most sense to me of anything because I cannot get my head around what's happened there. But he said, if you grow a massive proletariat of young people. Don't be surprised if they turn into communists. And I thought it was quite, and we've all had this experience, I'm sure you have too, of people, young people growing up, and we're now old enough to remember ourselves in their situation. Yeah. But we were all able to get houses. We were all able to find somewhere to live, and we didn't have to live on top with 6 other people necessarily, whatever. So there's this new thing now, which is everywhere. It's terrible in Ireland, by the way. It's really horrible in Ireland.
It's
where you have
here than
young
anywhere.
Young men,
down south anyway.
young men who are living with their parents, and young women living with their parents way past when you should be living with your parents. But I think that's
they can't
also...
afford. We should say they can't afford to build houses. Which, by the way, I blame progressives for stopping building things.
No, that's exactly the point Peter Thiel makes. Is because of the fact that they wouldn't allow people to build houses. That nobody. So he's sort of saying, don't be surprised
hard on them almost,
because. This is what they grew them.
Okay, Peter Thiel, be hard on them, Jenny. Be hard on them. Come on, give them help.
No, I kind of agree in that I'm almost 50 and I look back and, you think, oh, well, when I used to have really dumb ideas too. Okay.
Yes,
this is a normal phase in life.
Right. You should be proud of that though.
Yeah. And the thing was, I didn't have all of adult society enabling me in my stupid ideas.
Yes.
I still had an education, like primary, secondary, and tertiary education, that was still tied to a meritocratic sort of old-fashioned system where
Correct.
no one was going to kiss your ass because
Yeah.
you were like just a dumb 19-year-old and you didn't
Yes.
really matter.
Yeah.
So you kind of got used to just not needing validation all the time. Although when I went into the workforce, the media game was already on its last legs, but I got a few years out of it.
Yeah.
And these kids are coming out with incredible debt as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, having said that, I think if they weren't running around, celebrating the assassination of Charlie Kirk, I would probably find a little more mercy for them in my heart.
Yes.
Or,
Yeah,
or
right.
fangirling, lusting after Luigi Mangione, who shot dead a family man in cold blood.
Who had not committed any crimes.
Who had not committed any crimes. And there's a whole, I don't know if you know this, but there's a whole cadre of women who were obsessing over him and making TikToks about it all the time and trying to get him acquitted.
Yeah.
And so it's like, there's serial killers have fans too, it's just one of those things.
Yeah.
But the politics of this class is so, it's sour. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's something incredibly sour about these young people.
Yeah.
There is.
Which was not the case when we were young, because we weren't perfect, obviously, but we were sort of like like puppies, like young people always have been. Somewhat jaded, because I'm Gen X, and like we were pretty jaded because our boomers raised us, especially American ones, because American boomers were like extra, as the kids say. But these kids are just. They've literally had their asses kissed their entire lives.
Yeah.
And they think they're entitled to cushy arts jobs.
Yeah.
And they think that, they have all of these, they have a lot of expectation inflation. And they were done a disservice that their adults in their lives didn't say, you know what, maybe it's not a good idea to get $150,000, $250,000, $350,000 in debt to do a job
in women's studies and ethnomusicology, and then thought you were going to get a job somewhere, right?
I disagree, because it was. I mean, this is the thing. People used to say, "Oh, when they leave college and they have to get a real job in the real world, then they'll become conservative." Under USAID and all those billions of dollars, they didn't have to get a real job. They were
because basically they had the sort of the professional managerial class invented like a quasi-communist system, like a money laundering system, where they took tax money and they took billionaire money and funneled it into these organizations that sort of paper shuffling, picture taking, that absorbed the excess of the cultural grad elites. And it's not sustainable. The working man doesn't want to have to pay for it anymore. And it's tough doo-doo. It's time, it's pay the piper time. Now, the fact that but there is something, and charmed is probably the wrong word. I'm amused. I'm darkly amused that the hipsters have finally got actual political representation. And part of me is looking forward to see
the city burn.
Well, I hope it doesn't. It feels like,
metaphorically.
It's sort of my spiritual home. Like Brooklyn shaped my attitude anyway, if nothing else. But let them have at it. Let them have at it.
There is a little bit of that Schadenfreude kind of thing, isn't there? Where it's like, okay, off you go now.
Yeah.
Let's see how that goes
because
now.
of all the things that I think Mamdani is, people call him a communist, a socialist. He certainly is a socialist. Yes, I wouldn't put up a federal case against that. He's been explicitly pro-socialist. I would call it more like neo-communist, because there is no economic analysis in his little world, right? And the Islamist thing of all of them is like the third order concern for me. I think it's performative on his part. I think he comes from like a third world culture, elite culture, where they're very artsy and they're very intellectual. And yes, sure, they love Edward Said. So they're all probably raging anti-Semites in real life. But they're not Hezbollah. They're not Hamas. They're not going to actually explicitly implement Sharia.
Yes,
I don't think
so.
But he is a first order hipster. And it's impossible to take hipsters seriously unless they're trying to kill you, which actually it turns out now they kind of are in the United States. And so, let's see how that goes. That's significant. That's culturally significant. It's never happened before, to my knowledge.
It's an unbelievable development that he's there. He's never had a job. I don't think the idea that this guy is going to run this extraordinarily wonderful city. Yeah, let's see how that goes.
Well, the city can run itself almost. You know, I mean, he is going to run it. It's going to run. Like, I mean, but
you think he's not going to start state-run supermarkets then, Phil?
he won't. He won't.
That's my favorite of all of them.
I like that.
Because that's what I've written this a few times. It's like, you know what, like you take a look at the New York City subway and think, oh, let's do this, but with food.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
That's what you think. I mean, really?
And that's
like,
a horrible thing to say now.
That's really disgusting.
Now I've got that image in my head. Let's do this with food. Oh my God. Right. Okay.
But I mean, every so often, every 15 years, the New York Times does an article about what's that famous co-op in New York? Is it the Brooklyn?
Park Slope Co-op.
Park Slope Co-op.
Yes.
And basically it collapses every 10 years because...
But they love the idea of it.
They love the idea of it, but nobody wants to work. So you have to do X number of hours.
They fight like devil.
Yeah. And of course, people who are rich and powerful, they hire other people to work their hours, and then people say you're not allowed to do that. That's exploitation, and it's just it just collapses every so often.
Yeah.
Well, look at Sierra Club. It collapsed too. It is collapsing too.
The environmental organization.
Yes, because they decided to get into social justice.
Right.
And somebody, you know, the old school, they wanted to protect the wolves, and they're saying, I don't see how protecting wolves helps racial justice. and she goes, exactly.
Right. They hired like hundreds of DEI officers, basically.
Yeah,
you know,
180 DIE officers, and there's only 800 in the
whole organization.
In the whole organization.
That's insane.
Yeah, so they're collapsing now because they're overspending and the donations.
I mean, the thing is, like, nobody, again, going back to like the demise of meritocracy, and this is particularly American, although the UK has 100% adopted this. Maybe not so much the island of Ireland, both sides, but certainly England. This attitude of like, we learn from the child, not the child learns from us.
Oh no.
Child-centered everything, which came into force really with the millennials. I mean, that is genuinely where I pinpoint the start of the civilizational collapse, because these kids are now adults. Like, some of them are in their 40s at this point. And it's their education. I mean, I know that social and emotional learning is a relatively newish sort of thing, but they might as well have been brought up in that mode, because all of the culture was telling them that they were special, and they couldn't, you know, and was making them making them very fragile.
Mm-hmm.
And this is literally our current political system. Whilst there's structural, economic, hard-nosed things that have impoverished people, you've also got this entire generation of people who simply cannot deal with reality, because their entire lives they've been mollycoddled and catered to, and I genuinely think that that's an actual structural factor in the woke movement. I mean, and the left has always had, even going back to the 70s, and the sort of original sort of lefty feminists. Mm-hmm. I mean, that strain has always been there. Mm-hmm. The feminists, the lefty feminists are 100%. Okay, they're not 100. They're 50% responsible for the trans thing, because the other 50% is the crazy pharmaceutical creepy men who want to, all them.
In what way? In what way?
Well, there's a documentary actually on it's on YouTube. It was from BBC. It was done by the BBC in 2007 about the Rad Femmes, the Rev Femmes in London in the 1970s. And it's an absolute eye-opener. Go look, just put it into YouTube. I think it was Vanessa Engels was the director of it, or the producer. And, you know, these women, like including Julie Bindel, actually, who's become a huge TERF, to her credit.
Yes.
Absolutely to her credit.
Just to say, TERF is trans-exclusionary radical feminist.
Yes.
So they're leading the anti-trans.
It's meant to be a derogatory term, but actually we wear it.
Yes,
people who are TERF wear it.
As I said in my
pride.
tweet today, it's beginning to look a lot like turf mass over there at
right.
Killing Millhouse. A lot of them. Go ahead.
But these were the women who, I mean, they were sort of what do you call it, lesbian separatists, and all these things that we used to kind of make fun of in the 90s as being these like, oh, identity politics. But you know, this element of hysteria, the purity spirals, and the fractiousness and the falling out. And there's even one part where, you know, Julie Bindel says, like, I would be annoyed because of my female comrades going home to their husbands because they didn't realize that sexuality was a social construct, and how dare they sleep with the enemy, essentially. I'm like, well, how is that? I mean, that's a direct line from that into how dare you not want to sleep with me with your because I have a lady penis. I'm sorry, but they're connected.
Yeah.
So there's always been this strain of leftism that's been very emotive. and that embedded itself in education.
Yeah.
And that combined with sort of like very kind of precious bourgeois.
Well, I think you pinpoint something that I just become so aware of, which is the schools, the teaching. So we can be very negative about these young people, for example, who elected Mamdani, but they've been indoctrinated from kindergarten, and it's one of the things that was interesting about COVID was that a lot of grown-ups suddenly paid attention to what their children were learning in school because they could see it on the screen. Like, they're teaching you what, and I think we have to take some responsibility for the fact that these teachers have had free reign to terrorize these children, by the way, to make them really scared of the world. We're all about to die because of climate change. And then, are you really sure that you were born in the right body and all of that? And all of that has been allowed to go on. And then you end up with this, and then grade inflation, by the way. When you were talking earlier about, I don't know if you saw that amazing story about Harvard, where oh my God, it's hilarious. And they literally have discovered like this massive grade inflation.
The average grade at Harvard, the top grade is 4. The average grade is 3.87 now. So everyone is in the top. Everyone is. Everyone gets an A.
In 100 years, the grade inflation has been like 83%. Basically, they've been able to trace.
The average grade used to be a 2 point something, right? It's 60%, I suppose.
Yeah. And now this story has been exposed, and the students are very upset,
right?
Because the students they're horrified at the prospect that they might actually be graded accurately.
Right.
So I think there was an enormous amount of. We just left it up to the teachers. Do whatever you think is right, and people stood back and weren't involved.
Yeah,
and then you've created this massive population of as you say, fragile, but also they're angry.
Yeah, they're very
and
angry.
They're scared, and it's a whole count. And then somebody like Mamdani comes along with a big smile, and they're like, "I want."
Yeah, because he's saying he's validating my existence essentially.
Yes. Everything that I was taught in school, he's telling me back to my face,
and he's using all of the symbol, like the style. Stylistically,
yes,
he was good. In the sense that, he used a Wes Anderson filter on all his bloody TikToks. You know what I mean?
Oh, I didn't know that.
Is that, I mean, well, I don't,
I told you.
My husband has a very big problem with Wes Anderson.
Oh, see, but this is the thing. This is why I still
I like Wes Anderson.
No one ever admits to being a hipster. I don't think I ever was really a hipster.
I have a t-shirt called "Don't Feed the Hipsters."
Yes,
right.
Yes.
But I love Wes Anderson. I loved NPR. I never actually I never did a shift at the Park Slope Food Co-op. I never joined.
Right.
But I mean, that was the world I lived in. Like a lot of people I know did. It was just. I worked in media. It was. I am from those are technically my people.
Right.
Which makes me partially not really loath to criticize them, but I understand where they're coming from, and I see how badly they want Mamdani to be real.
Yeah.
And I also am so my jaw just hits the floor. I'm like, how can you not see how fake he is? How can you not?
Are you sure he's not real? In the sense, he's not.
Is he actually a hologram?
No, that he is what he says he is, and they're all in this madness together. I mean,
I think he probably is.
When you say fake, I mean he's real.
I don't think he's substantive. In the sense that he will know how to take the reins and the levers in the city and actually do something in a managerial way.
Yes.
I don't think so at all. But he's definitely. I think he believes his own hype.
Yeah.
I think he.
He should believe his own hype.
Yeah, no,
look how successful he's been.
Yeah.
I mean, and he's only 34 or whatever. I mean, it's an unbelievable success
the biggest
story.
loser in all of this, AOC.
Oh yeah.
You think?
Oh yeah.
Well,
she must be very upset.
Oh yeah.
And now he's the shiny new thing, and she's like, whoever AOC.
Well, actually, I think the biggest loser is the Democratic Party, the establishment.
Yes. Yeah.
Because now we can they're dead. They're dead. The Cuomos,
and it's funny, they knew it. They kind of knew it, and that's many of them had their hands off.
The fact that he even ran was. What a terrible thing he did.
Yeah.
I mean, after the COVID, the old people's homes, and after the sexual harassment, he had to resign in disgrace, 3 years ago? Yeah. So the Cuomos are out.
By the way, I'm not
The Clintons
convinced.
are out. The Bushes are out.
Yeah.
The old guard is going to die off very soon.
Pelosi's
and all
going,
you have now is DSA versus MAGA.
Yeah.
That's it. That's the only game in town.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I think at that, I think we are.
I'd like to talk more, but
I think no, we could talk all
Yes.
night. But I think we definitely
No, we have to go.
We have to go. But thank you so much
It was
for.
lovely to see you
We
both
really
again.
where can
appreciate
people
it.
get you, Jenny?
Yes. So my Substack is jennyholland.substack.com. I also just started a YouTube channel, Saving Culture from Itself. And it's
Excellent.
quite tiny, so please check it out.
Well, we'll put the links actually in the show notes as
Yeah.
well, so people can find them.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Pleasure
Well,
to see
tomorrow
you
we're
both.
going back to the case. You're going to come
Yes,
to the
I'll
case
be
tomorrow.
there in the morning.
We
yeah.
will, yes, we will be updating people on a daily basis, we hope.
Yes. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.